A blowjob in the Oval Office. The president's facing a sexual allegation, a sex scandal. What does he do? He starts a war. Sound familiar? We're at war now. Of course, undeclared, right? You create a crisis. Never let a crisis go to waste. You manufacture a crisis. You spin it, doctor it, produce it, deny, deflect, project, distract. You make it about what? National security, about patriotism. You sing, you preach, you propagandize. What does Steve Bannon say? You flood the zone. You make people afraid. The US is bombing Iran now. They're talking about all kinds of shit, including potentially the draft. So what are they not talking about? The files. Files? What files? Right? In the 90s, Clinton bombed a pharmaceutical plant in Sudan. When was that? It was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal. So tonight we talk about a president, an accusation, an election, a Hollywood war, an imaginary war. Tonight, the dog doesn't wag its tail. Tonight, the tail wags the dog. RickRamos, go.
When I was watching this film last night, I sent you a message, and the message read very, very simply. It was a very plain and simple message. I said, this movie is still fucking hilarious. Scary, but hilarious. And you wrote back, it's definitely cynical. I watched this movie, and the word satire came into my head as I was watching it. So I wanted to be very specific about the definition, and I looked it up just to be specific. I know what a satire is, but I wanted to be very specific about what the definition was. The use of humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, particularly in the context of contemporary politics and other topical issues. There was a point as I was watching this movie, I thought, I don't know if this is so much a satire as it is almost a nonfiction storytelling. A dramatical nonfiction storytelling, yeah.
They're like, this is a documentary, you know?
Exactly. I mean, I was watching it, and what people don't remember is that this movie did not come out in response to Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. It came out. It happened while that story broke. The movie was already shot. It was edited, I believe, and it was getting ready to be released. And I think it was going to be released a few weeks after the Monica Lewinsky trial broke. So it was almost as if old Bill Jeff wanted to dramatize his own bullshit for the public. And I think all parties involved, Barry Levinson as director, Robert De Niro and Jane Rosenthal as producers, they brought one of the best political satires that I think has ever been put on film. And strangely enough, Wag the Dog isn't even an original piece. Wag the Dog is it's based on a novel. And as I was watching the film, and as I was starting to watch the film, it was the first time that I noticed that it was from an original source. It's based on Larry Beinhardt's 1993 novel American Hero, which is 1 year into Bill Clinton's presidency. So already, and if you think back to the times, Bill Gates had both Paula Jones and Jennifer Flowers.
Bill Clinton.
What did I say?
You said Bill Gates, and that's a whole other.
That's a whole other series
of
of pedophilia and indiscretions.
Yeah, right.
Sorry,
Right.
Bill Clinton. Let's get our scumbags correct, okay? Because
Let's get our bills.
yeah,
Slick Willie.
so yeah, old Bill Jeff, as Carlin once called him, old Bill Jeff. So it's hard to imagine that Larry Beinhart, the author of the original novel, was not aware of all of this and was making an almost obvious and easily predictable fictional story. But it comes in the wake of understanding how politics in Washington works and the idea of backroom dealings, underhanded political maneuvering. You're talking about Richard Nixon in the 70s, in the late 60s, making a deal with the North Vietnamese to offer a better deal out of the Vietnam War or the American War. You're talking about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, but also the myriad sexual scandals passing Marilyn Monroe between himself and his brother, her death. If you start piecing together the controversies surrounding the White House, the presidency, scumbags like the aforementioned, and later on Henry Kissinger, Donald Rumsfeld. I mean, it's just it's amazing to me. Wag the Dog is no longer a satire, and it's no longer an exaggeration. It's a black comedy. You're laughing at the things that are so blatantly horrible because of two things, and because they're handled so straight. The ridiculousness of the lengths to which they'll go to preserve power, and Dustin Hoffman's unhinged performance, almost I would say, channeling the late great Robert Evans, who himself said he deserved an Oscar for his performance in this film. I think the whole thing is fascinating. Robert Evans.
Wait, you said Robert Evans said that he himself deserved an Oscar for his performance in this film.
Yeah, because I think he said something to that effect. He said something to that effect, basically saying that Hoffman was playing him, which goes to, like, most people would have been upset and angry and said that is I know a lot of people are going to say that's me. No, Robert Evans embraced it almost in the same way that Stanley Motz ends up getting himself killed at the end of this movie, because he so badly wants the fucking attention and the credit for what is on screen in both cases. Evans and Motz. It's unbelievable how accurate this film is. I kind of want to sit down. I kind of want to get the book, sit down, and see where they go off on different roads and how they handle the material differently, because I don't know what the original intention of the book was.
Right.
Because the book, it's like Strangelove, the original source material is not what Kubrick put out there.
I mean, the same thing with fucking, it's going to be the same thing that anything fucking Kubrick touches, he's going to make it his own, to the degree that fucking people can say, look, he knew. Kubrick somehow knew. I don't know how the fuck he knew, but somehow he knew all this shit, and the people who say he knew somehow have access to the knowledge that he had the knowledge, and they can point and say, well, look at the pattern in the carpet. The pattern in the carpet means this. Look at the cans in the storage room. Look at the way the brand has a Native American logo. That's talking about the conquest. That's talking about the colonization. That's talking about, and at that point, it's like Kubrick is sending out his agenda, which is, I want to make my fucking movie and control everyone in it and fuck Shelley Duvall's life up. Not that was his agenda, but that was the byproduct. And then people are throwing their agenda back on top of Kubrick and saying, well, to me, it's ironic that such a control freak would have his own fucking messages be misinterpreted, interpreted, adjusted, reconfigured to fit the narratives of whoever the fuck wants to, because someone could easily give the counter. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
to everything. With this, you have, interestingly, look at David Mamet works on this fucking script too. And David Mamet, pretty soon would go off the rails into full-on conservatism. You know what I mean?
Well, that calls into question the two different David Mamets, and I think there is an idea there that needs to be mined as far as an artist who starts off one thing and then becomes radicalized. And because I think, with Mamet, you can see it. With John Voight, you see it. Charlton Heston. I mean, there's any number of liberal and for their times woke individuals that would become right-wing darlings, almost erasing their earlier stances, beliefs, political standings. I think it's
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, yeah. I mean, there is something to that where you have to wonder: is that the power? Is that the overpowering force of power corrupting, or is it a genuine change in view? And because I don't know how these people can turn on the dime like this to believe something so monumentally different from the people that they once were.
I mean, is it? And we're off on another area, but it's like
as we always do. But
right now, but is it fucking is it turning on the dime, or is it that they were always that way, but now they're embracing it, or is it a gradual kind of like, you know what, fuck Hollywood? Is it John Milius that he's like, he always had this romance about wars that he never fought in, and action that he never had to put himself through, and
danger.
Whatever
danger he never had to put himself through.
Putting himself to the test, and these bullshit views of like what it means to be masculine, and then when he fucking like starts to decline in Hollywood, it becomes, oh well, it's because I'm conservative. They censored me. And it's like, motherfucker, like there's a documentary about you right now that you're talking about this, and you're not being censored at all. It's good. It's the same thing as the whole idea of being canceled, and all these people would go on their own podcasts that they had, sucking each other off about how fucking they were all being canceled, and it's like, you guys are on podcasts.
Yeah,
you're not the ones canceling you. Anyway, let's reel it back to the 90s. Democrat in office. Let's put it in the context, because this is truly like, this is the professional wrestling. This is the political theater. This is politics as blood sport. There's the documentary about Clinton, the Clinton campaign, the war room. Remember that?
Yeah, James Carville.
Yeah. James Carville. The 90s is culture war. Fucking, it wasn't canceling. It was the big ones were, it was immigration, affirmative action. Fucking, I mean, you still had all the same issues that people like to play up today. But it was political correctness. versus, wokeness as a term. By the mid 90s, Bill Clinton he has a young intern and named Monica Lewinsky, and they basically start fucking around.
Mm-hmm.
Things are getting too hot and heavy, so they transfer her out. I think to the Pentagon.
There's a documentary about this on HBO Max. You could look it up, the Lewinsky Scandal or something, and she speaks about it. They talk to her, and I remember that I was in my early 20s at that point, and it was 96, 97, so I guess it was the beginning of his second term, correct? Because he was 92 to 96, yeah. But he had had scandals. He had Paula Jones. He'd had Jennifer Flowers.
Well, the Paula Jones thing was gonna break open this shit when she sued his ass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but then there was allegations of rape. Juanita Broddick, right?
I got forgotten about that because
because he's such a scumbag that it's
There's also the Anita Hill shit with fucking Clarence Thomas jumping off in that same era.
Yeah.
So, but she gets transferred, and she befriends
Lewinsky gets transferred.
Lewinsky gets transferred, and she starts talking to this woman named Linda Tripp, and Linda Tripp starts fucking recording phone conversations,
as every good friend should. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Why not, right?
Yeah.
And it's during this time that the movie that we're talking about tonight, gets released. So the scandal hasn't broken yet because Linda Tripp's just barely gathering the tapes. And she gives those recordings to Kenneth Starr, who's like gonna lead he's the independent counsel who's gonna lead the impeachment later. So Kenneth Starr's investigating the Whitewater scandal.
Oh my God, yeah. Forgot all about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the Whitewater scandal is basically the Clintons. They invested in the 70s, in the late 70s. They had, I think he was about to be governor of Arkansas, and they invested in some land.
Yeah,
it was a land deal, and the land deal failed. They lost money, but later on, people realized that the guy that he had done the land deal with had one of those savings and loan scams that fucking hit. Remember in the 80s.
I remember those Charles Keating. Charles Keating was one name, the major name.
That was the main. That was probably the poster boy of that, of all of that shit.
My state, yeah,
in Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And so all of this shit started coming out for the Whitewater thing, and it was part investigation, but there were certain aspects of it that were hit jobs because it was like, well, the Republicans fucking wanted, and the Bushes were against Clinton. And in this time also, there's the White House counsel. His name was Vince Foster. He was found dead in a park, and it was ruled suicide.
Vince Foster?
So, yeah.
I thought that was Vernon Jordan.
I don't know who that is.
Vernon Jordan was a lawyer friend of theirs who I think he ended up dead too. Oh shit! Don't quote me on that, but because I know there are some dead bodies in the wake. I know that much I know, and I know the Clintons. There is a lot of questionable shit on the empire building of Bill and Hillary Clinton, and it's there's a lot of dirty shit there, and the type of thing where maybe you don't have the proof, but if there was any kind of real, honest, and if there were any kind of Justice Department that, number one, took its job seriously, but also was looking out for the American people, it would have been easy to find evidence against the Clintons, Bush, 1 and 2, Reagan, Nixon, and old Donnie.
Well, yeah, just about everybody except for fucking Jimmy Carter, you know? Like,
yeah.
It's
But it's easy to vote a guy like that out, so he got his just dues in a different way.
It becomes like fucking professional wrestling and kayfabe, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like they all serve the same fucking masters, but they're just different flavors, you know.
Mhm.
And it's the illusion of choice. It's all that shit. Two sides of the same coin. However, you know, any kind of conspiracy kind of description that you want to put on it.
Yeah.
But all this shit's happening with Kenneth Starr, and it comes up. So this movie's come out.
Yeah, then the scandal breaks. Yeah, because it was like 1 month before.
Yeah, because Paula Jones is suing Clinton from when he was Arkansas governor about sexual harassment, and the question is whether, I think it went to the Supreme Court, and it was the question as to whether he was immune as president. So then there was the Drudge Report broke the story.
Mm-hmm. I remember the Drudge Report. Yeah,
it was a right-wing publication or whatever, and and I think at the time, I think Andrew Breitbart, who ended up starting Breitbart, that was after he died, was taken over by Steve Bannon further down the line. Breitbart might have already been on it, but the Drudge Report broke the story, and they found that Newsweek had buried it. So then Clinton lies about Lewinsky, and then Clinton, in all of this shit as a scandal, he's like, we need to do a fucking missile strike against the pharmaceutical plant in Sudan. And then people were like, what the fuck are you doing a missile strike right now? Then he got impeached. And Kenneth Starr led the impeachment. And then later on, Kenneth Starr ended up being Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Wow. And I'm not saying that's connected. I'm just saying, like,
this shit sounds like shit that we're making up. To be honest, this sounds like we're just making shit up as we go along. Fuck it, let's just wing it. Let's wing it. How about the next song we try and see? No, fuck it, wing it. Let's just wing it.
That's why Stanley Kubrick was going to do that documentary about this.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Then they killed his ass.
Heart attack.
Because Tom Cruise was going to be Bill Clinton. And Homegirl was going to be Hillary. Anyway, no. So this is actually like a timeline of all the shit that happened with Clinton, and in the middle of it, to reiterate, a movie called Wag the Dog comes out, directed by Barry Levinson, and it's about a sex scandal involving the president. And so, what do? In the film, they hire Robert De Niro's character to kind of fix the situation. So he's like, okay, well, we have to go to war. And Anne Heche is like this White House fucking aide or whatever, senior aide. And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, we have to go to war. We have to distract from all this shit because the election is like 11 days away. And we need to just carry it over the finish line. So Robert De Niro's fixer character hires Dustin Hoffman's
Robert Evans character,
Robert Evans Jewish Hollywood producer character, because that's such an element of that piece.
Yeah.
And together they figure out a way to manufacture a war that they can sell to the American people, so they can get people into a patriotic mood, so they can view the leader, the president, as decisive, just so that they can get him over the finish line for the election, and then they can, this will be buried, and people will forget in the news cycle. And so they figure out, okay, what, it's that almost that random. What country? Okay, Albania. Why Albania? What do you know about Albania? Nothing. Exactly. Then they fucking hire some girl to be the Albanian refugee. They make her sign a fucking non-disclosure agreement. They CGI her fucking. She's holding a bag of chips, and they CGI her that it's a white cat, and they have her going through this village, and slowly they put all the parts together. They create an enemy. They start a war. They create a hero. The same thing that they did with Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was fragged, killed by his own men post 9/11, and they used that and abused it into making him a hero so they could fucking promote their endless war on terror bullshit. And that's what the film's about. You go through every piece of the production, the pre-production, the casting, the filming, the launching of this war. And right now, we are in war. I mean, it's for oil, it's for all this other shit, but at the same time, there is also like people are still in the background going like, release the Epstein files, release the Epstein files. But those searches apparently are down because now people are searching Iran. And so it's apropos that we do an episode about scandal surrounding an administration, and in the middle of that scandal, there's a war. And our episode, having that in the background, is about a film where the administration has a sex scandal, and so they start a war. But that movie comes out while in real time, that president at the time of that that the movie comes out has a sex scandal and launches military assault. So it's like meta shit, you know?
Yeah.
This is the cycle. And like you said, it sounds like we're making this shit up. But they're making it up.
And obviously.
They're making it up.
Very, very obviously. Like, I mean, it's and it's not even like that Donald Trump is referred to as a con man. I think that's insulting to con men, because what he's doing is so fucking obvious. There's no nuance to it. There's just braggadocio and bullying, and that's not what a con man does. A con man is short for confidence man who instill, and he's not doing that. It's brazen. This is the most corrupt. I would argue that this is the most corrupt administration in at least the modern political history that we're dealing with, but in a way that the American public has been so beaten down and is, in a lot of cases, so I'm sad to say, woefully or willfully ignorant of how politics work, and this idea that fear can motivate anything. I think that's Donald Trump's greatest gift in this situation. What's great about this movie is that it's the pageantry of creating something that America can get behind by taking advantage of this patriotic feeling of we're America, we're fighting for freedom, we're out here to bring freedom and the American way
Democracy.
of life. Yeah. Whereas with Trump, he's blatantly saying this is about oil. He has said it.
there is that, but there's still a piece. There is still that piece of like, well,
Yeah, but that's just
as
like here, let me throw that to you because I know you're expecting it almost as though the public only wants to hear it so that they can defend themselves. What I'm seeing in this
for sure.
whole parade is a level of narcissism, American narcissism. I'm not talking about Trump's narcissism. I'm talking about American narcissism that focuses our importance, our goodness as something that everybody else wants to hate and destroy. And it's sadly not the case. And there's elements of that in this movie where they start talking about Albania. What the funniest thing about this movie to me is Hoffman's character, Mott's, thinking on his toes all the time and producing like it's a real show, when in fact it is a real show. It blurs the line, and I think that's the brilliance of the movie. I think this is a brilliant film. I think this is and it's a more important film today than it was during the Clinton Lewinsky controversy. This is because let's be honest, that wasn't that big a deal. It was ridiculous, but the handling of the handling to get the public's mind off of it, it's hard to deny that that's what was done. The difference here is, if you notice, he's a pedophile in this movie. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, a Firefly girl? A Girl Scout? That's a fucking pedophile. Monica Lewinsky was at least 21. And I still think that she got dragged through the mud unfairly. I mean, she should have been treated. She was responsible enough to know what she was doing, but why was it only her that was
right?
Why was it only her? You know?
And she's the one that was attacked for her appearance. And she's the one that basically got called a pig, basically.
Mm-hmm. This is the Lolita thing where it was like, how can you blame him when a young woman is just seducing you like that, when they're so damn sexy in that youth? Get the fuck out of here. You're a 40 some odd year old man. I think it was like almost 50 at this point. He probably was 50. And you want to talk about using your power? You want to talk about just being an abusive, emotional fuck? That's what Bill Clinton was. Bill Clinton is, if you watch these, my mom was watching the CNN, I think it was CNN or MSNBC, the deposition. She was just watching it, and she was watching him take a drink, and she could see his hand shake, and she was like, I was wondering if he had Parkinson's. I was like, I hope he does. I hope he has fucking Parkinson's. I hope it starts eating away at him. Fuck him. Fuck him. He's an evil man. And for those who want to call him one of the great presidents of our time, if anything, this movie makes you realize that it's all bullshit, that it's all a facade, that it's nothing but a pageant designed to keep you from asking the deeper, more relevant and important questions of, number one, who's pulling the strings and where are the victims? The sad thing is that in 2026, we have the victims. We see them.
Right.
They're standing behind fucking Pam Bondi, who will not acknowledge them. They're standing there waiting to be heard. And the fact that a $1 billion pornographic pedophilia ring could go on for over a decade, and the only two people that were brought to justice, one is negotiating her way out of it, and the other one supposedly killed himself in custody. What about all the people in the files? What about the men and the women that were actively victimizing these people? Why the fuck has it not come out? And
the tentacles. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Exactly. No. And the fact that it took Donald Trump this long to start the war is surprising to me.
Well, he was already starting the war at home.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's so much shit that has gone on that you lose track of how fucked up this whole situation is. You lose track of how, maybe you don't, but I can only keep track of so many fucking plates that are spinning.
And that's the point. That's the Steve Bannon playbook. That's the flood the zone strategy. You flood the zone with so much shit that it's like, how do you fucking like keep track of what's going on? It's an onslaught, and to a degree, there's like a level of like, you become immune to it. You just keep pushing the envelope, and then it becomes, oh well, let's just Trump be Trump. And when you said, for example, oh, in this movie it's a pedophile, I didn't know if you were talking about the film Wag the Dog, or if you're talking about the metaphor of the movie that we're watching in real time, which is the film of current events and our current situation and the state of the fucking world.
You could argue both, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, well, what war? Well, they started the war at home. The war fucking with the ICE Gestapo.
Mm-hmm.
They did a fucking kidnapping of a head of state. They're fucking starving fucking Cuba to death. They just did something in Honduras. They did the tariffs. They did this. You know what I mean? And it's the fucking Doge had come in earlier. This has been one fucking onslaught, and now we may be in the middle of World War III, but don't know it because we're looking at from the lens of like, okay, well, declared wars and fucking wars fought in the 20th century, and this is not it. And with the news cycle, with these fucking propaganda machines, with all of this shit, it's kind of like there are a bunch of teams of Robert DeNiro's and Dustin Hoffman's and Anne Heche, like in these pockets, each working for their own interests. And you talk about the Clinton of the 90s, that situation, yeah, that wasn't a fucking cabal. And now it's like, even how it connects to Clinton is that the Epstein connection to the 4chan guy to create the Pizzagate controversy, to accuse Hillary Clinton of running some fucking sex ring out of some random pizza parlor, out of the basement, which supposedly didn't even have a basement. And it's kind of like the sex ring is throwing out the story of the sex ring to distract and deflect. And it becomes kind of that thing of like every accusation is a confession. And there's a book. It's Ryan Holiday he's fashioned himself as he kind of changed into a modern day wannabe like stoic. Like he pushes like stoic. They've criticized him and called it broicism, but stoicism. But he has a book. He was a media manipulator, and it's called "Trust Me, I'm Lying."
I think I've heard of this, yeah.
And he used to, his whole expertise was on getting websites to like run stories that he wanted promoted by when people would hire him. And he talks about the in this 24-hour news cycle and in this cycle of just clicks, there's no time for fact checking. It's all about how many clicks you can get. I mean, and it's always been that going back, Network talked about this in the 70s. But it's gone even to such a crazy degree that it's all about reverse engineering the results that you want. So that in this film, Robert De Niro is like, well, whatever this is, it doesn't have to, it's not the B-3 bomber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he says that. And then Anne Heche is like, what what do you mean the B-3 bomber?
There
and
is
he's
no
like,
B-3
that's,
bomber. That's
that's
exactly
it. There is no B-3. There is no B-3 bomber. And she's like, no, but what do you? But and she wants to keep talking about the B-3 bomber because it's like, where did that come from? And he tries to brush it aside. And by brushing it aside, it makes her want to talk about it more.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's planted that fucking idea in her head. And she's not talking. At this point, like, the conversation has shifted from the sex scandal to the B-3 bomber. And the fucking B-3 bomber, there is no B-3 bomber. He's right, there is no, but there is now because he created it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the suggestibility idea. And so now it's like, in our real-time movie, it's kind of like, well, the war is over. And then a reporter's like, well, you're saying the war is over, but your men are saying that the war has just begun. Which is it? And he's like, a little bit of both. And I'm laughing so as to not cry.
I mean, he might as well say, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Because,
exactly.
It's like, fuck.
It's like, well, yeah, it's a little bit of both. It's the beginning of the end. Yeah. Or it's the end of the beginning. It doesn't fucking matter, because at this point they're quoting fucking 1984. They're fucking unironically fucking quoting George Orwell. You know what I mean? It's like, it's insane. And in this film, it really gets to the psychology of the people, the enablers, the collaborators. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about that with Salon. We've talked about that with Eyes Wide Shut. These systems of power and these systems of abuse and these systems of fascism, and they can't exist without people who are so-called just doing their job.
Sure.
Because those people who do the boring shit that leads up to atrocities, like, they're the ones that create the infrastructure for it. And this film really gets to that, because these are not fervent believers in the president. They're not even necessarily fervent believers in the system. These are not like with nowadays you have these like MAGA diehard cultists, basically. These aren't ideologues. They're just about power, and they also get off on the idea of just, it's like a game to them. Mm-hmm. And their egos are so huge that they're like, oh fuck, like, we should just keep doing this. Wow, this is amazing. And finally, no, I want credit. I want fucking credit, because I'm so great. I made this happen. I want fucking credit.
It's the greatest work of my life, because it's honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's moments that Hoffman is brilliant in this film. He is brilliant, I think.
But not in an overblown way. They're so optimistic and realistic about their shit, and they love it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll make it work.
Yeah.
At no point are they really worried about reality or the truth. And it gets at the idea of, as I said, the culture of enabling that just allows for people to say, well, we have to hide the president's condition. Yeah. We have to do this. We have to do that. And to some degree, they're worried. The Anne Heches may be worried about it, but the fucking Robert DeNiro's and Dustin Hoffman's they're getting off on it because of the behind the scenes power.
Well, the De Niro, Conrad Breen, and Stanley Motz, they love the game. Think about it. You would have been a great chess player. If I could have ever remembered how to move the pieces, yeah. there's that. There's I never won an Oscar. They don't have Oscars for producing. They're talking about the skills that they bring to something. The De Niro character, in contrast, is fine with being in the shadows, likes it, likes his wealth, likes the power. He likes being the great and powerful Oz behind the picture. He knows what he does. He knows what he brings to it. And the power and the wealth that he has from it is enough. Mott's is different. And Mott's is needy. And it plays into the stereotype of the entertainment industry, which is anybody who goes into it with a desire to be seen, to be recognized, and to be loved for who they are, what they do, and their accomplishments. And I'll be go to fuck if this shitty film school student commercial is going to get the accolades that he deserves. Mm-hmm. And I love that about it, because there's a sense of honesty in this film. There is the ridiculousness of layer upon layer of exaggeration, but I don't feel that there is any point in this film. There was no point in this film that I believe is dishonest. I think everything that happens in this film is realistically dealt with and is exaggerated to the level that life exaggerates certain situations. Even the Woody Harrelson Schumann character, who turns out to be a psychotic, prisoner. Right. I mean, it's a great, and Harrelson kills it, because there's no moment where he's winking at the camera, and he's having a great time. And the fact that the only one who's afraid of the whole situation is the Anne Heche character, because she's somewhat human. The rest of them are, but she's horrible in her own way.
Yeah.
But I mean, those moments were just fucking hilarious to me. That okay, this is nothing. I love the way Hoffman just keeps saying, "This is nothing. This is nothing," yeah. And he just compares it to, imagine you're 4 months into principal photography on Song of Solomon, and you realize you don't have fucking the rights to the novel. And it's like, it's. Do you not understand the level of where you're placing this country? That the fact that you're just you're belittling everything that we're supposed to be about. And as I watch it, maybe it's a bad thing that I watch this film and I feel validated for everything I believe, because this is 30 years later, and the Trump administration is validating everything that I believed. Everything that I ever thought about my government is happening right here and right now. And I think my dad's generation felt the same way about Vietnam and Watergate. I don't know which one is worse. So I don't know.
I mean, this is worse, because Watergate brought Nixon down.
Mm-hmm.
This is round 2 already of after fucking impeachments, after fucking scandal, after all this shit, and this person has enriched himself, and those around him have enriched themselves that much further in this round, where motherfuckers are also betting on the war that they're starting.
Yeah.
And bragging about, they said, why don't you just take the ships? It's more fun to just sink it. Which is a war. That's a war crime.
Well, I always thought that murdering a head of state was a war crime. Maybe I was wrong.
First of all, this country hasn't declared a war since fucking World War II.
1942. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's it's all bullshit and it's bad for you.
I remember a great man said that once. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it just shows, this film does an interesting thing in that it connects the Hollywood to the politics.
Yes.
And in real time, we can see these connections between Hollywood and politics, finance, all these other tech, uh, just through the venue of the Epstein files.
Well, I think when you watch a movie like this, it's enlightening because I don't think you should use a movie like this and say, see, everything is bullshit. Fuck it all. They're all lies. I think what you should watch a movie like this and see a dramatization, a comic telling, and say, how much does that look like the bullshit that we're told?
Right.
And let's ask ourselves, how susceptible am I to wanting to believe said bullshit? Because ultimately, we are at fault in that regard. These are scumbags that we have elected, put in office. You could make the argument that we didn't. This is the best that we had available to us, but there is something to be said about the collective who is either too afraid to stand up against the bullshit, not willing to use their brains in evaluating it, or looking to just be led. And I think that's the problem with us as a species.
There is that. There's also, it's gotten so extreme at this point that, like, I think it's gone off the rails of just the regular, we did this back and forth kind of like Bush Clinton thing, where it's like, okay, we'll have fucking Clinton in the summer and Bush in the winter kind of bullshit, where it's just kind of like cyclical. Because I understand what you mean, but it's like, I didn't fucking vote for this shit. Like, because there are definitely people out there, the non-bots, the ones who are actually people that you see that are putting those comments or putting themselves out there on video or posts, whatever, that they're like, I voted for this shit. Those diehard fucking, they're like, I voted for, this is exactly what the fuck I want. I voted for this shit. And they will ride to the end. I did not vote for this.
No, but I don't know. A democracy should work in a way that at least punishes criminality.
Well, all the guardrails of regular corruption, the regular day in and day out fucking political bullshit that we all long for. It's so bad now that, I mean, the system is so fucked and so rigged and so rotten.
Yeah, but there's a part of me that wonders, has it always been that way? We just didn't have anybody as brazen as a Donald Trump to exploit it.
True, but that also begs the question: is like, is it that it was? Yes, it's rotten at the core, but at this point, is the system just, it can't hold anymore? And now, just like, this shit is just, the boils are appearing now, like outside the body. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The rot is coming through. I mean, like, he's just a symptom.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Of the disease. And this is like a late stage of that disease.
Yeah.
And the fucked up part is that, like, we don't live in a world at this point where we're not participating in the exploitation of another person, because it's like, we've talked about this, like, okay, you're using a phone, you're doing this, you're doing that. Somebody fucking suffered to make us these products.
Yeah.
And so there's that part. Then there's the part of, like, what do we support? What companies? What big tech? What this and that? What's real? When every time you're looking at something on a screen or reading something or whatever the fuck you're doing, You have to make that fucking conscious choice of like, is Robert De Niro behind this? You know what I mean? Like, metaphorically, like, um, who who's telling? Where am I getting this from? Um, and is this even real? And our brains are not set up to be to deal with that onslaught of misinformation, disinformation, where you see a headline or something, and then you're like, you have this emotional reaction to it, and then you go to the comments, and then later on there's a correction, and it's like, no, this was actually not real. It's been fact checked and proven wrong, and then later it's like, no, actually it was real. It's just that this part was not real, and you have to kind of like sift through and understand that there are lies embedded in the truth, and that there's a truth embedded in the lies. And at this point, it's like wag the dog, wag the tail, fucking like, what the fuck? Like, we don't even know where the dog is at all. We don't know what's up and what's down. And this film, in that sense, is quaint. In the same way that I said that, like, Eyes Wide Shut was quaint.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is fucking way darker.
Yeah.
It's like, mix this movie with Truman Show, with fucking Matrix, with Minority Report. You know what I'm saying? Like, with V for Vendetta, and it's kind of like take every sci-fi fucked up, including Star Wars, every sci-fi film that has these elements of dystopian whatever, which have been like on and off the course of our whole podcast, like everything we've talked about, just about, or at least, you know, a good percentage of it, and mix them, throw them in this fucking giant blender and mix them, and it's like, that's what we're living in. Except it doesn't look cool because it's horrible. It's fucked up. This film is just a slice of that, and funny, dryly funny.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going like, God damn. And there is a part of me that's like, well, fuck, I wish we could roll the tape back to that, because a president lying about that, you already know. It's like, what? First of all, you know he lied his way in, and he's gonna fucking lie his way out. That's the levels of compromise by the time they get there. But when you have even still a question of like, okay, well, was that it, kind of thing, which was, in a sense, what I think you were getting at, where it was like, okay, could it have been chalked up as, okay, it was an abuse of power because he was so much older and he's the most powerful man in the country, in the world, and this is a early 20s intern, like, obviously there's a power dynamic that's already abusive, that's blah blah. But let's pretend that at the very least we kind of put that to the side and we say, okay, these are still two adults, right?
Yeah.
And it's an indiscretion, right? Versus a fucking cabal with fucking like all kinds of other bullshit and all kinds of other atrocities, and then the level of all these other agencies covering up to protect it, and Americans are dying in the streets, and fucking people are family separation, and fucking like the racism and the fucking this and that and the war and at this point, and the proxy war. At this point, Iran is gonna become a proxy war if it's not already. And that there's fucking, you can sub out De Niro for Bannon, you can sub out, the fucking Bannon can play both parts. He can be the producer side and the fucking political fixer side.
That's true. It's true. But
For fun, if you wanted to, you could swap out Weinstein with fucking De Niro and throw in Woody Allen and fucking, you know what I mean? Like, if you wanted to be fucking like that, because we can, because we have all these casts of sick characters. But it's bad.
well, the fact is, you either wake up and you pay attention to the bullshit around you and you say, no, I'm not going to, fuck you. You're not going to lie to me anymore. Or you just put your head in the sand, and I'm not willing to put my head in the sand, and never have been, and I got no power to do anything about it, but I'm not going to sit here and believe the bullshit. So,
right.
It's a powerful film. It's, I think I called it one of the defining films of the 1990s. I think, I can't remember where we listed it, but it was one of the defining films for me. It said a lot about the 1990s, and sadly it says even more about 2026. I wish that was not the case, but shit in one hand and wish in the other and see which one gets filled first, because that's the reality of this world.
Sure is. BuyMeACoffee.com/WatchRickRamos. BuyMeACoffee.com/WatchRickRamos. This one's for Stephen Palmer. Thanks for listening. Be careful.